Hello and welcome to another My Aspie Marriage video. And remember, in a previous video about gardening, I talked about how pretty much everything that we've ever done in this marriage has been a conflict of some degree. Well, we were recently at our counsellor. We are seeing a new one. This lady is a psychologist and she specialises in neurodiverse people. So she knows a thing or 10 about how they operate and really good ways to interact with them and things like this. So we were seeing her and hubby was saying to her that he's on a health kick now. He's agreeing that food and bringing bad food into the house and things like this is an issue. And she said, oh, that's really great, that's really wonderful. And I said to her, look, I do have to point out, I said, this is a recent development and we've been together for 24 years. It's been 24 years of us arguing about this. And when I say arguing, I guess I shouldn't really use that word, because arguing to me is somebody going blah 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 and the other person and it's kind of a backwards and forwards yelling. That's not what's going on. I will say to him, please don't XYZ. He'll say yeah and do it anyway. So it's not arguing per se. So let's use the term disagreeing. And I'd said to her in that session, I had no idea when I met him, and granted I didn't know he was on the spectrum, but I had no idea that every single possible thing that goes on in a relationship was going to turn into a debate. I said to her, even food turned into a debate. When I met him, I was skinny mini, as somebody once called me. And I was a health fanatic. I didn't eat junk. I exercised regularly. I was so obsessed with not gaining any weight because I wasn't going to be getting any taller that I went out of my way to try and stay slim. And I ate really well. I cooked my own meals. I rarely got takeaway. I rarely got packet food. I rarely ate lollies, junk, chips, anything like that. I was really good. When I met him, one of the first things I noticed about his family was it was food orientated. We went and stayed with his family the very first time I met them, and I wake up to this wondrous smells, delicious. And I get up and there's a smorgasbord of dishes to choose from to have for breakfast. And I'm one of those people that it takes me hours to wake up. Even though I'm up and my eyes are open, it takes me hours to fully be awake. And I don't get hungry until I've been up for hours. So when I see this display of food, as glorious as it was, I said to the family, I'm not hungry, thank you. And they were a little bit shocked and possibly miffed. I can't fully explain what they were feeling. They didn't look particularly happy. They did kind of try to nag me into eating. They kept sort of saying, come on, just have a bit, just have a bit, just have a bit. And I kept saying, I'm really just not hungry, I'm really just not hungry. So I knew that there was a difference already in how we operated. My husband, on the other hand, is action man. As soon as his feet touch the floor, he is up and at 'em. He's got things to do, places to be, and he's just in it and on it, and he eats straight away and then he's on with his day. So we are obviously two very different people in that regard. And so we're staying with his family. and there's this big brekkie, and then there's this big lunch, and then there's this big dinner. And I was kind of thinking, oh, this is so excessive with the food. And my husband was like me. He was slim and fit, and he looked after himself, and he had a fine body. He wasn't overweight by any means. In fact, we were both super, super slim. So it wasn't this thing where it was a major concern. And yet I remember having, this little voice talking in my head saying, this is problematic. But I just kind of rolled with it. And at the end of the night, like maybe 11 o'clock at night, he and his family suddenly go, oh, let's order pizza. And we'd had this gigantic dinner. And I was like, you can't be serious. You could actually fit that in? Wow, And I didn't have any pizza. For a starter, I'm not a pizza fan. I know. Blasphemy. But I was just not hungry, and I could not understand how they were. And so that was the beginning of the hint that food was going to be an issue. As the years progressed, he would do things like bring really shitty, crappy food into the house. Cream cookies, chips, whatever, bad stuff. And I would say to him, can you please not bring that into the house? If it's there, I will eat it. And I do. When there's cream cookies in the house, I'll have three for brekkie, 3 for lunch, 3 for dessert. It's almost a weakness, I kind of open the pantry and there's the food, and I'm like, it calls to me, I think food's like that for everybody. Anyway, so I was saying to him, please don't bring it into the house. If it's there, I will eat it, and this is not how I like to eat. And he would just ignore what I said and do it anyway. And so it turned into a bit of a battle where I would then start to plead and beg him not to bring it into the house. And then I would get angry that he's bringing it into the house, and we'd just go just on like this. Then, over the years, because he's bringing crappy food into the house and I'm gaining the odd kilo or two, I have gained on average 1 kilo a year since I've been with him, which is probably not bad in the scheme of things, but for me, who always wanted to remain slim, I am bothered by that. I'm upset with myself, I'm upset with him. It's really agitated me. Anyway, he started making disparaging comments about my weight even before I was big. And my friends were concerned because they were saying, look, him making disparaging comments about your weight when you're slim, that's problematic. That's abusive. That's what abusive boyfriends do with their girlfriends to make them feel shit about themselves so that they think that that boyfriend's the best that they can ever have. And I was concerned with the things that he was saying. So let me give you some examples. So he'd bring donuts into the house, for example, and I'd have one. And he'd say, should you be eating that? And it would make me feel like I was like this giant heifer. And I was still very slim then. I was still probably in my late 40s to early 50 kgs. And then after I had the baby, he said things like, I thought you'd bounce back quicker, and just the sayings just kept coming. These things about my weight, just small little comments, tactless, not really thinking, but just saying stuff. Mentioning that, oh, my family's noticed that you've gained weight, and my family have said things like, oh, you're getting fat, and stuff like this. So it got out of control. He was now bringing things home and then insulting me and berating me for eating them, and then getting agitated at me for gaining weight. And as I said, I was still slim in those days. I did have a really silly thought process at the time, as you do when somebody is verbally abusing your appearance. And keep in mind, he's not a complimenter. He's not offsetting this with compliments. He's just making these crummy remarks about my body image. And so I had this kind of moment where I thought to myself, you think I'm fat? You don't know what fat is. And I just stopped caring after a while. And when I say that, it was only about 4 or 6 years ago that I just gave up the fight. I was so done in by this constant food battle that I just threw my hands up in the air and thought, if you can't beat them, join them. Add to that, we've got children that he's buying all this stuff for. Here's some donuts and cookies and cake and KFC and yada yada yada. And mum's this stingy poo head who won't let us eat anything but lettuce. I exaggerate obviously, but you get my point I'm making. So he looks like this hero in their eyes, this one who's bringing home all this glorious food, while mum's being this health kick fanatic and not wanting us to have these giant bags of lollies. And it was playing on me because the kids were just favouring him and making negative remarks about me as well now because they want the shitty bad food. And I was like, I cannot win with this guy. Like, he just gets me at every turn. Even when he agrees, all right, I won't bring that in the house anymore. 2 weeks later, he's forgotten about the conversation and it's back there again. And I was like, yeah, like I said, I just threw my hands up and went, hey, whatevs. And so I started doing things like buying the takeaway and the crappy food and saying yes every time they said, can we have this and can we have that? And now he's turning around and telling me, who are you to talk? You're just the same as me. You're doing it too. And I said to him, let's be serious here. Let's be honest. There is no way that my food intake is level to yours. There is no way that my bringing bad food into the house is on the level that yours is in any way, shape or form. There's just no way. It just isn't. I said to him, you just need to understand the psychology behind it, where I've just given up. Now, of course, giving up meant that I gained weight big time in those last 2 to 4 years because eating badly does that to you. Funny that. And what made him go on this health kick is because he's finally started to gain weight himself. It's taken him years. And on that note, I should say, he has the kind of metabolism where he can eat and eat and eat and eat and eat, and it takes him ages to gain weight. And then he'll go to the gym and he's losing it in weeks, and you're like, you suck. I mean, it's great, but I feel bad for myself because I wish I was like that. So it's taken him years to finally get to a weight where he's dissatisfied. And that was the turning point for us. So the scary thing about that is that because he loses weight real quick, he could lose it in a couple of months and then just start being crappy with food again. You know, there's no guarantee that he's going to stick to this health kick that he's now saying he wants to be on. And he's now agreeing with me that let's bring the greens in and let's have some more salads and let's cook some more veggies and let's not bring the donuts and the cookies and the chips and the chocolate and the lollies and into the house. Because even though our children are slim, it isn't good for your insides to eat this badly. You can get things like diabetes. Even when you're slim, you can look healthy and you're really not. And I have talked to him about this till I am blue in the face. And even when we were talking about it with our counsellor recently, she was saying exactly the same thing. And I said to her, I've said all this to him. What you're saying now, I've said all this to him. And it's just in one ear and out the other. It's just this repetitive, broken record where he'll agree and then break it, and then agree and then break it, and then agree and then break it, and such is our life. And that's how food is rolling for us. You wouldn't even have imagined that food would play a part in any marriage. Well, maybe you do know. I didn't. Oh, jeepers, I was so naive. When I met him, I was so naive. I just thought that you got together. Compose myself. I just thought you got together and you said your piece and they said their piece, and somehow you came together in the middle. That's how I thought marriages went. You got to say, look, I don't like this because of X, Y, Z, and that person says, well, that makes a whole ton of sense to me. I'll keep that in mind. That's how I thought marriages would go. And it wasn't that way at all. And I don't know, is it going this way because he's Aspie? Because he's on the spectrum? Is this something neurotypical couples face as well, where almost everything you do is conflict? Is it just the type of person that he is? Are there autistic people out there not conflicting as much as we are? And this is why I want to make these videos and keep using these specific examples, because I'm so curious. Is this just him and me? I know that I have friends with husbands who are also on the spectrum, and some of them are just as conflicty as mine, and some of them aren't. So I don't know the percentage of those who are really conflicting and those who are just easygoing and just go with the flow. Are there autistic people who are easygoing and just go with the flow? Again, I don't know these things. I'm at a loss to even fathom what the answer to that is. So yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that I just wanted to make this random video about food and weight, just to see if others out there can relate. If you can, please drop a line below, leave me a comment, love to hear from you. If you're on the spectrum and you can relate to this, or food is a thing for you, or you never agree with anything your partner says either, comment below. Love to know what's going on in your thought processes. And do you think that there's some way, something, somehow, that I could say something to him that would make sense, that would get him to stop? And on that note, my mum said to me, you're the one choosing to eat the food. You're partly to blame. And I do get that. Obviously, that makes a little bit of sense. However, it would be likened to if I was an alcoholic and I'd said to him, please do not bring alcohol into the house, and he just kept doing it. That would mean that he's an enabler, and that's not okay. And it's very similar to our food. He is a feeder. He provides really well, but a little bit too much. So we have too much food, too much excess. And it's playing havoc on my health. So yeah, my mum is correct in that I'm the one eating the food. Those cookies are calling to me and I'm saying okay. And I should have some better willpower. But at the same time, I want my partner to be respectful of my wishes, to be supportive of my wishes, and to not put me down for gaining the weight and not having the perfect figure and all those sorts of things he's now doing, or he's since been doing, even before I was bigger. And speaking of alcohol, I've asked him to stop bringing alcohol into the house as well, and he doesn't stop that either. It's just one of those things. He's just not interested in listening to what it is that I want. And it reminds me of that earlier video where I talked about why Aspie partners are so tired and sad. This is such a long, ongoing, annoying debate. You want to just be able to say to somebody, don't join the wine club and get that wine delivered every so many months. I'm not really a fan of it. I don't want to be drinking. And can we just stop? And then he could just say, yes, okay. And yet it doesn't roll that way. That's just how it is. Please leave a comment below, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video.